Hello viewers, welcome to today's edition of Let's Learn, and as you already know, I go by the name of Adverbs. Over the weeks, we've been studying major word classes, and specifically, we have been looking at categories under major word classes, and today will be no different because today we'll be studying adverbs, which is also another type of major word class. Adverbs. So one may ask, what then is an adverb? An adverb or adverbs are words that are used to modify a verb, an adjective, a phrase, or a clause, and even another adverb. So adverbs are words that are used to modify verbs, adjectives, phrases, clauses, and even other adverbs. Okay, so now let us look at how adverbs modify each of these. That's a verb, an adjective, a phrase, a clause, and other adverbs. So let's take them one after the other. Adverbs modifying verbs. So when adverbs are modifying verbs, they come immediately before the verb they are modifying. They are closer to the verb they are modifying. And so examples can be, the teacher hardly came. Okay, so from our sentence, the teacher hardly came. Hardly over here is an adverb, and it is modifying kings. It is stating how often the teacher kings. It is trying to inform us in a regular routine or how usually the teacher kings. And so it is now over here modifying the verb kings. Okay, so you can have another example as she came immediately. Okay, so she came immediately, where came is a verb, and then immediately is an adverb modifying the verb came. So the underlined words are adverbs, and they are modifying the verbs cames and came respectively. Okay, so let's look at how adverbs modify adjectives. So just as we see adverbs modifying verbs where they are very close to the verbs they are modifying, so is it with adverbs modifying adjectives. They also come close to the adjective they are modifying. They give more emphasis to the adjectives they are modifying. Okay, so you can have examples in sentences such as, the old lady is certainly beautiful. The old lady is certainly beautiful. So in the old lady is certainly beautiful, we see there is an adjective, and certainly is an adverb, where it's trying to inform us that this old lady is indeed beautiful, or this old lady is truly beautiful. And so it is telling us that it is giving us information in relation to the beauty. So it is modifying the adjective beautiful. Okay, so in our second example, we see the white bow is extremely nice. Now in this sentence, nice over here is an adjective. Extremely is an adverb which is modifying nice. It is giving more emphasis on the nice, telling us something about the nice. And so over here you are seeing adverbs modifying adjectives. Great. So the next on the list is adverbs modifying phrases. Okay, so adverbs modifying phrases. One may ask, what is a phrase? A phrase is a group of related words that act as a single unit. So you should note that phrases do not contain verbs and subjects at the same time. So anything that does not contain the verb and the subject at the same time, and it's a group of related words which is acting as a single unit, then that is a phrase. And so with that being said, Let's see how adverbs modify phrases. So, in this example, the clothes were kept closely behind the door. The clothes were kept closely behind the door. Okay, so let's get that down. Okay, so from these sentences, let's take the very first one. The clothes were kept closely behind the door. Closely over here is an adverb which is modifying behind the door, a phrase. It is not modifying just behind, it is modifying the whole thing, behind the door, this whole thing. So over here, behind the door is a phrase. So the clothes were not packed anywhere, but they were packed closely behind the door. Where behind the door is a phrase, and closely over here is modifying the phrase behind the door, where closely is an adverb. In the second example, we see the stage dresser is often on heat. The stage dresser is often on heat. So often over here is an adverb which is modifying the prepositional phrase on heat. So on heat over here is a prepositional phrase. It's one type of phrase, so it's called prepositional phrase. We will get there in due time. So over here we see often modifying on heat, which is also a phrase. Okay, so the next is adverbs modifying clauses. Adverbs modifying clauses. So a clause is a group of related words, just like a phrase. But then the clause contains or has a verb and its subject in the same sentence. So we said phrases do not have verbs and its subject in the same sentence, but clauses have the verb and the subject in the same sentence, which means a clause can be a full sentence. For instance, we can say, he is a boy. He is a boy can be a clause. So it has the verb is and then the subject he in the same sentence. Great. So with these, usually the adverbs that modify clauses begin the sentence. Usually they begin the sentence. So let's have examples so we see how they are or how they come in play. Okay, so from my examples, in example 1 we can see currently I read English. I read English is a sentence on its own, which is a clause. Now currently is modifying I read English, the clause. It is trying to tell us that I am doing it now. The thing is in play now. The activity is still in play. So currently I am reading English, or I read English. That is the adverb currently is modifying the clause I read English. In example 2 we have usually Mr. Mensah eats rice on Sundays. Usually Mr. Mensah eats rice on Sunday. So usually Mr. Mensah eats rice on Sunday. Usually over here is an adverb which is modifying the whole sentence. Mr. Mensah eats rice on Sunday. So if we take usually from there, if we assume usually is not written, we would have Mr. Mensah eats rice on Sundays, which is a complete sentence and makes a complete thought. But when usually comes in play, it is trying to tell us that though it is not done every day, but at most times Mr. Mensah eats rice. So over here, usually being an adverb is modifying the sentence Mr. Mensah eats rice every day, telling us how regular he eats rice. Great. So the next, we have adverbs modifying other adverbs. That will be the last thing. So adverbs modifying other adverbs. We already know what an adverb is, and another adverb is modifying it. Okay, so let's have examples in sentences to see how they come in play. Okay, so in these sentences we see, in the first sentence especially, we see I am always there. Now always is an adverb. There is also an adverb. There is an adverb of place. It is showing where something is. And always is showing frequency. And so we see over here that the adverb always is modifying the adverb there. It is showing us how regular something comes in play, how often something is. So in this sentence, you are being told that I am always, that means the person who is speaking doesn't go anywhere. He is always where he is supposed to be. He is always there. So always over here is always over here being an adverb is modifying another adverb there. So in the next example, we have she sang too loudly. Loudly is an adverb. Too is also an adverb of degree. So it is showing to what extent she sang. To what extent did she sing? Although she sang loudly, but it was too much. So the too over here is an adverb, but it is showing, or it is modifying another adverb loudly. Okay, so from these we can give examples of adverbs. We can now give examples of adverbs. We have hardly, immediately, certainly, extremely, closely, often, currently, usually, always, there, too, loudly, etc., etc. Now we should note that most adverbs end with ly. Most adverbs, not all adverbs, most adverbs. So we can see loudly ends with ly, usually, certainly, currently, closely, extremely, certainly, immediately, and hardly. These adverbs and many more ends with ly. So adverbs usually ends with ly. That is one thing we should note. So anytime you see a word ending in ly, first check if it is the first thing that should come in your mind is it's supposed to be an adverb. Now if you check and it's not an adverb, then you should know that it's an adjective or something else. But you should first know that words that ends with ly, it's usually or are usually adverbs. So we should also note that sometimes adverbs can be used as adjectives. Sometimes adverbs can be used as adjectives. That is something we should note. So let's see the word lovely. Now, she looks lovely and she is lovely. In she looks lovely, lovely over there is an adverb. Lovely as used in she looks lovely is an adverb, but as used in she is lovely is an adjective. So we are seeing that the same lovely is used as an adverb first, and then it is also used as an adjective. So it is proving to the fact that sometimes adverbs can be used as adjectives. Okay, so as we have said earlier on, she looks lovely, where lovely in this sentence is an adverb, and she is lovely, where lovely in this sentence is acting as an adjective. So we should take note, sometimes adverbs are used as adjectives. Okay, so the next on the list, or the next thing we have to do is to look at the types of adverbs. There are basically 5 types of adverbs. We have the adverb of manner, that is, it asks why or in what manner. We have adverb of time, adverb of place, adverb of degree, and adverb of frequency. Okay, so adverbs are grouped into types as a result of their function. Adverbs are grouped into types as a result of their function. So they are grouped into these 5 major types as a result of their function, how they act, how they relate to the sentence or to the other words in the sentence. Okay, so with that being written, we have adverb of manner. That is the first type of adverb we would tackle today. Now, adverb of manner deals with how. It deals with situations or questions related to how or in what manner. In what manner. So, adverb of manner shows the way an action has been performed. It shows the way an action has been performed or is being performing. So it's showing how the action was done, or is still in, if it's still in process, how the action is still in process. It is showing the manner, in what manner it is done, or how it is done. Okay. So example of such adverbs, you can have well, happily, neatly, immediately, etc., etc. We should note that usually these adverbs end with ly. That is adverb of manner. Usually they end with ly. Okay, so these are examples of adverbs. And now when they are used in sentence, this is how they play. The mango fell slowly. So it is showing how the mango fell. Though it fell, but it didn't fall rapidly. It was falling slowly, calmly. That is how the mango fell. In example 2, we can have, or we see, they ate the food very fast. Now it is trying to tell us that the food was actually consumed. It was consumed alright, but it was not consumed slowly. It was taken in very fast, at a faster rate. So they ate the food very fast. Okay, so the next type of adverb we are looking at is the adverb of time. Now, adverb of time asks the question when. When did something happen? When is something going to happen? Or when is something happening? So they indicate the time of an event, or the time an event took place. So it asks the question when, and it also indicates the time an event took place. So example of such adverbs, we have annually, yearly, daily, etc., etc. So examples in sentences can be: after lunch, we played football. Now, after here is depicting time. It is telling us that we are going to play football not any time, but after lunch. So it is, the activity is going to be done after lunch. So after is also an example of adverb of time. It is telling us when an event will take place. Example 2, they will get here soon. Now, soon over here is trying to tell us that they are not going to keep long, but they will get here any moment from now. They are on their way coming, and they will be getting here soon. So soon here is also an example of adverb of time. So the next type of adverb we'll be talking about is adverb of place. Adverb of place talks about where. And so adverb of place, it betokens a specific area. That is, it shows or talks about where an event is taking place. And so we can have examples of adverbs as above, below, everywhere, here, there, etc., etc. So example in sentence. Example 1, I sat here. Here is talking about a place. It is trying to tell us where an event is taking place. And example 2, the books are there. There over here is also talking about place. And so we see that these two examples are telling us where an event took place. Okay, so the next type of adverb is the adverb of degree. Now, adverb of degree talks about to what extent, and this is where we say so, or it is enough, or something is close to finishing, something is almost full, something is, it talks about to what extent something is happening, or to what extent something is about to happen. And so we can have examples such as enough, Just. Great. So, as I was saying earlier on, it tells us how something is close to finishing or how something happened. So let's say he caned you, how hard he caned you, or how strong he caned you, or how many times he caned you. Examples. The bucket of water is almost full. What is telling us that the bucket is not full, but it is close to full. That is, the bucket of water is not, or the water hasn't gotten to the brim of the bucket, but it is almost close to the brim of the bucket. Great. In the second sentence, so the underlined word over here, almost, is the adverb, which is talking about, or which is showing the extent to which something is happening. In example 2, we are seeing there are so many students in the class, which is trying to tell us that the students in the class are many though, but there are too much, and so is trying to tell us that the students in the class are exceeding expectation. So over here is showing, or is an adverb of degree. The next and last type of adverb we'll be talking about is adverb of frequency. Now, adverb of frequency talks about how often a verb is occurring or has occurred. And so it states how often a verb occurs. Therefore, they mostly modify verbs. So what we're trying to say is that adverb of frequency, they are usually modifying verbs. Earlier we spoke about adverbs modifying verbs, adverbs, adjectives, and so on. And so this particular type of adverbs modify verbs especially. Example 1 in sentence. I always read a book before bed. I always read a book before bed. Now, in this sentence, it is telling us how regular the person reads a book before he sleeps. So it is telling us that the action is done on regular basis or regularly. And so it is showing us how often the person reads a book. In example 2, we have, does he normally walk his dog at this time? Does he normally walk his dog at this time? So it is actually a question, but it is trying to tell us that is it what the person is doing? Is it done in regular basis? Is he always doing it, or it is just doing it, or he is just doing it today? Is it done, or is it done under regular circumstances, or it is done only today? And so normally here is also an example of an adverb of frequency. Now we said that adverb of frequency usually modify verbs, and so you can see it over here, read. So this adverb always is modifying the verb read, and over here walk, which is a verb, the adverb normally is modifying the verb walk. So that will be the end of the types of adverbs. Great. So we've come to the end of another exciting episode. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and share the video. Gracias.